Oh, yeah. Told you it worked.
For now.
How come I'm big and you're all little? What's happening? Why is that happening? How do I make you guys big and me little?
Told you it worked.
Take the small pill.
Hey, somebody's got YouTube or Facebook or something on. I'm hearing a 10-second echo.
One pill
Only
makes
Rich
you large.
Moranis knows.
What's that, Greg?
Only Rich Moranis knows how to shrink people.
Yeah, I don't know how to make me small and you guys big.
I
How
think
do
you
I
shrunk a
do
little as you
that?
just added someone in Patrick.
Oh, look, I just made Lynn
Oh.
big.
Hi.
Patrick's big. You big, bald, beautiful bastard, you. It's
Yeah,
Patrick,
man, it's short.
ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
I'm still trying to
He's
figure out the new controls.
When
You
blow
too.
the screen up, you can't see the boxes anymore. All right. There we go.
By the way, everyone, it was Patrick's fault last night that we sent out 7 invites. Patrick,
I'm the one taking this one on the head, huh? That's good.
Patrick caused that.
You go tell him everything about that.
Patrick caused that to happen. I just want everyone to know. So,
And here I thought I was just living in an echo.
yes.
Patrick was the only one that decided to check the technology.
Look what I figured out.
Yay.
Whoa. All right, now it looks like Zoom again. Oh,
There you go. Fancy. I am figuring this stuff out. We do have Strickland coming. Michael is going to make an appearance, which he hasn't been here in a while. So that'll be fun.
Very good.
So yeah, the general idea here is really to move a bunch of people who were sitting in the background listening on phones and stuff, move them to YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn eventually. You actually have to get approved on LinkedIn, which is interesting. So,
Hi.
hey,
so I'm
there
not
he is.
approved yet. Hey, Michael.
Hey, Michael.
How you doing?
It's
Boy,
nice to see you in an actual office, not with that bandit background thing.
This
like
is where
it.
I'm always sitting. It's a mess, isn't it?
No, I like it. I like
You
it.
fit in well throughout the pandemic.
That's
Yeah,
why he has the secret visitor room
there you go.
or the secret office in the public visitor room. This is
Yeah,
really
yeah.
weird because they don't reverse the video. Like you have something in your right hand, but it's like coming in from the left. It's very
Well,
strange.
let me write an email to the CEO and see what he says, the CEO of this streaming platform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I watched their tutorial video on how to use this so I could set up this call today. And the guy, the CEO, the founder of this company called StreamYard is, he looks like he's about 19 years old. And he looks like he just woke up, like his hair's going like this and like over here. And, you know, it's really funny. I'll send you the video link, but it's quite hilarious. So I got to read something to you that's pretty funny because Wiseman.
Are we broadcasting right now? by the
We
way?
are, yeah.
Okay.
We're on Facebook twice, my Facebook and Geezers of Gear Facebook.
Copy.
Facebook and on YouTube. I don't know if we have any followers yet. Oh, we actually do. We have some
Yeah.
comments.
Well, we got a comment, so Chris is looking.
There you go, Chris Asen. Look at that, will you? So Wiseman said, because he was supposed to be here, he said, I can't make this. I am fucking buried in gigs. Buried. There's my answer to Are We Back? I'm on calls with all my guys nailing down crew gear and details for flights. Short-handed, all hands on deck.
Plus, I heard that you couldn't work out the 7-second delay button in time to get Wiseman on.
We don't have to delay anything. We are who we are.
Really? Have you not met Wiseman? Oh, okay. Got it.
I have. We haven't censored him yet, so I don't think we'll start now. So anyways, thank you guys for popping in here. And today is, I felt like it was kind of an appropriate time to do this different format because, you know, first of all, I think some people were getting bored with the old format. myself, some days included. Most days it was pretty good, some days not so good. And it really it's a drop in, it's a weekly drop in. So it just depends on who's dropping in and what stories they're bringing to the table, on whether or not it was fun. So some weeks was a lot more fun than others. Some weeks probably, wasn't fun at all for some people. Hey, Eric.
Hey, guys.
And so I wanted to change up the format. So I figured we'd try this. It might not work forever. It might work for a little while, and then we'll try something else again. I know Zoom is starting to enable broadcasting, so we may go back to that. But really what I wanted to talk about today was something that I would normally do on the podcast with, a bunch of people like Eric Loader, Wiseman, Featherstone, and Ben. We got this thing that we called the COVID crew, and we'd go on and bitch about stuff or talk about, what might be fixing itself finally and getting better. And, really, I mean, you guys are a pretty good cross section of what's going on in the industry right now. Greg from Clearwing and Bob with Eggshell and Ben Act, all of you are with pretty major companies. Other than myself, I'm a tiny little company, but I think you've got a good pulse on what's going on in the market. And so I'm really happy that this group of 10 people showed up. I mean, it's a really good cross mix of different people and stuff. And so really today, what I want to discuss is this the end? Is it the end of the pandemic? Are we officially waving the back to work flag? And I mean, I know that comes with a lot of caveats and baggage. And that's one of the reasons I really wanted to have Michael on today. So Michael, I'm happy you were able to join for a little bit. There's a lot of companies out there, mine included, who went through some pain and built up some debt that we really didn't want to build up over this last 15 or 16 months. And while we're starting to see blue sky and, revenues picking up and lots of stuff on the horizon, we still have a hole to fill in the background. And, I know rental companies who have anywhere from $1 to $10 million in additional baggage, in additional debt that they're carrying. And that scares the living hell out of me. The fact that there's all this debt going forward. And really, it's one of the biggest questions I have is how are people going to deal with that? And, I know Michael has some insight as to sort of, the back end of this. I feel like we're the back end of the SVOG, put kind of humorously, we're the ass end of the SVOG. We kind of got screwed. And so I know that you've been having communication. I don't know if that's dead yet or if it's still very much alive. So maybe, Michael, you can jump in and kind of tell us what's going on here.
Yeah, thank you, Marcel. It's very much alive and good to see everybody. I've been missing from things of this nature for quite some time. One of the things that I've figured out how to do in all this is play the game the way that they play the game. And I went from being the guy that screamed and yelled and shouted and talked about everything, and we sent out those mass emails where you sent, where we had tens of thousands of people emailing senators and staff and whatnot. And 3 months ago, I finally figured out how to play the game their way. That's why you haven't heard a lot from me. There is, and some of you know this, Marcel knows it, Ben knows it, there is a bill. And the thing about politicians is they don't want to be embarrassed. They want to be seen to be doing the right thing. They want to always be on the right side of every issue. And you have to give them every opportunity to do that. And, through all the other stuff, so that you all know, every legislator until December the 5th of last year said that Save Our Stages stood no chance of passing, that it was going to be restart. And Save Our Stages, as you know, was jumped on by Chuck Schumer, and Chuck Schumer got Pelosi on board, and then he got Mitch McConnell on board, and that was all he needed. And once that happened, it appeared written into 3 out of 4 vehicles before Congress, and obviously it got passed in the $900 billion bill that they passed. The thing is, if you read my email, the way the law is written, we qualify. We tick all the green boxes yes and all the red boxes no. Most of us on this call, Marcel's an exception, I think. Well, any manufacturer was an exception because it's tough for you to trace your money back directly to a ticket that's sold. But anybody in the hire business, like Greg at Clearwing, anybody that's in the hire business, or anybody that's a production designer or lighting designer, you can tick all those boxes and you fit. And that was giving the SBA absolute fits because you qualified legally, and there was this group of people, being all of us live int people, basically raising hell, going, no, wait a minute, we qualify. And they couldn't figure out how to get us out other than simply put it into the frequently asked questions. And the frequently asked questions don't have the power of law, but the one thing we can't overcome is it's their game and we're playing it. So if they choose to exclude us and violate the law, there's not a lot you can do about it. And that's kind of where the situation ended up. I have not quit that argument. I just do it quietly. Now, the piece that all of you don't know is there is a new bill. The new bill has the sponsorship of Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Kevin McCarthy, Mitch McConnell. That's leadership. That's important. They're all behind it. It also has the support of the Small Business House Committee, Nita Velasquez. Why? Because Nita Velasquez is under the domain and control of Nancy Pelosi. So we've got the House Small Business Committee. The last piece to come in was the Senate Small Business Committee under Marco Rubio, and we got him on board about 3 weeks ago. All that he asked for is that trade shows be written into the bill, which showed us clearly that he had never read the bill because trade shows were already written into the bill. So we waited 5 days and then went back to Rubio and went, okay, we'll put trade shows in. And he felt like he got a win. But trade shows were already written into the bill. So, and the last piece, and this is what surprised me,
Oh, my God,
is Senator Collins. Apparently nothing moves forward without Senator Collins. I didn't know that until about a month ago, but we got her on board. And her ask was really an amazing ask. Her ask was that bumpers and guardrails be put around museums. She has concerns that museums are somehow going to act out of line. So we agreed to put bumpers and guardrails around museums. If you've looked at SVOG, I think 200, 300 museums have even applied. But anyway, we've gotten critical mass. I'm told, and I believe it, that we have 80 senators and close to 300 House representatives that are on board with it. Why is it going to succeed? Chuck Schumer's behind it. Why is Chuck Schumer behind it? Chuck Schumer picked up 50 votes, 70 votes, 100 votes when he passed Save Our Stages and got money for all of the venues on Broadway. What he didn't realize was he lost 50,000 votes when he took care of no one downstream. He now knows that. The unions, the caterers, the ticket takers, all of what we would call the downstream people have worn him out to the point that I've been on the phone with him now 3 times. And the first phone call was like this. Hey, I didn't know. You know, I thought the money was for everybody. And now I see that perhaps it isn't, and we've got to fix this. So, you know, I had to be gracious. I had to let him, I had to buy into the story he was telling, and I did. I had to let him believe it was his opinion, and I did. And that's where he is now. He wants to clean this up. He's very, very afraid of losing his Senate seat to AOC. So he's trying to gain as many votes and as much support across New York City as he can. And that's what all politicians do. I mean nothing by that. But he's fully behind this. And that is why I believe it will pass, because Schumer wants it to happen, and we've gotten the rest of leadership. Here's why you haven't heard about it, and here's what the plan is. And if you think about it, you look at the next infrastructure bill. It's all you hear about, isn't it? You hear about what's in it. You hear about what shouldn't be in it. You hear about what should be in it. They want to make this bill. They have found $10 billion, and I know where the $10 billion is coming from. They have found $10 billion to fund it. They want to put it on a week before the vote as a barnacle because they don't want it shot at between now and the middle of July, because they feel like if they go public with it now and if they put it out there for public consumption, for those of you in New York, Ben, you probably heard this, there's an amendment to SVOG to include amusement parks because all of the Coney Island and all of those kind of folks want to get in. Well, it's being shot at and ripped apart and everything else. They want to keep this offline, out of sight until a week before, and then stick it on like a barnacle, knowing that enough people support it to have it go through. But it won't be a target. It won't be shot at. Ordinarily, I wouldn't believe that, because ordinarily I don't believe a lot of what I'm told. But because of the people that are supporting this, and because of what's in it, and I was on an hour phone call today, making sure that there's no language in there about tickets. Because if you put language in there about tickets, you take out all of the manufacturers, because the manufacturers can't tie back to ticket sales. And there was no pushback about it. And I don't believe there is any ticket language in there. But that's what we were discussing today, was making sure that there was no ticket language. I will share with you that right now the thresholds are 90% income loss, 70% income loss, and 50% income loss over a year, from March 13th of last year to March 13th of this year. And I believe everybody on this call, and I believe everybody in our industry that needs help can fit into one of those categories. And you may ask why we upped the bottom category from 25% to 50%. I think when you take it to 25%, that's a bad year. That's all that is. It's a bad year. We've all had them. I think if you take it that low, you'll run out of money, because there are people, with no disrespect, the people in the VR world who have just slayed making all this virtual reality stuff. No disrespect, love them, but if their company's down 25%, do they need being made whole? And the number becomes much bigger at 25% than it does at 50%. I think everybody that we would chat with can agree you're going to hit a 50% threshold. The other threshold right now, and if it's problematic, tell me, is that 70% of your income at a minimum will need to come from live events, live things, not ticketed live events, live events. So again, for those people that say do a Coca-Cola trade show or a Pepsi show or whatever, where you're paid X hundreds of thousands of dollars to do the show, that counts, because it's not tied to tickets being sold and box office receipts, because we all do a number of those kind of events where there are indeed events and there are people there and there's entertainment and all of that. It's just not ticketed. So we've gotten rid of that. And again, please email me if you think the 70% number is too high. It's not too late, but I believe, I believe that number works for most of us.
Excuse me. Just to be clear on the SVOG, different from the other programs that we've gone through with the SBA, the percentage of loss shown is for the entire yearly time frame, not per quarter, correct? So this was, if you had a 50% loss in one quarter of 2020 that was correlated to the same quarter of 2019, you were able to get assistance through the SBA's PPP or EIDL. SVOG, that percentage is for the full yearly time frame, correct? It's not correlating to a previous quarter.
SVOG is round one is if you've had a 90% loss, round two is 70, and round three is 25. And it's from March to December of 2020. But when you get down to the 25%, you only have to have a 25% loss in any one quarter. So that opens it up to everybody, because everybody was down 25% in one quarter.
Yeah.
The reason I question this is I had gone through this whole process and just yesterday received the denial, because they were specifically stating that they could not find that much of a loss.
Denial from which program?
From the SVOG.
Oh, you've gotten a denial?
Yeah.
And they gave you a reason?
Yes. Yeah, they said they specifically noted that you did not show a 50% loss within the time frame.
They're probably still in the hallway of your $1 million condo looking for the box office.
Probably.
Just kidding, Patrick.
Because there is no 50% threshold. There's a 70 and a 25.
Let me pull up the the letter they sent.
So, Michael, what's it look like if you are awarded? What is it?
Which program?
The new one. This new one. This the.
What do you mean? What does it look like?
Well, is it?
It's mimicking SVOG, up to $10 million, 45% of your income.
Okay.
Sort of all the parameters of SVOG. We're just knocking off the rough edges that would exclude the tickets and those kind of things. And this one is pointedly for service and support and supply companies and trade shows.
Okay.
Has it got a name of its own, Michael?
Not yet.
Just the next.
If I knew it, I would tell you.
The next bill.
And so I want to correct myself. I apologize. I'm speaking out of turn here. The letter I got, I thought was for SVOG. This was for the SBA's Supplemental Targeted Advanced Application, which is
where your business has to be in the hood, basically.
correct.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which the $1 Million Condo actually falls under,
Which is amazing.
To a lot of people that, and Michael had confirmed that he had also heard about this with a lot of other communities that are very much like my own, where you're in a zoned district that happens to have a few high-end properties, but is largely set around warehouses and other
Patrick,
things.
10 or 12 people sent me things like you did, with the little map and everything.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Meanwhile, I had a friend of mine in Brooklyn that desperately could use this, and he was literally 60 feet from the edge of the zone and denied it.
That's crazy.
Patrick, the reason I seemed surprised when you said you had gotten an SBOG denial, you would have been the first person that I had spoken to or emailed with or anything that had heard anything.
Yeah, so apologies for that. This is for the one of the other many programs.
I've spent all day today and yesterday on the phone, on email, on Zoom, with politicians, with people, with SBA people, and outside of the Palace Theater, which of course Schumer announced very publicly a couple of days ago, and then Senator Blumenthal's theater in his hometown, and then that one company flying. There's a third company. Those are the only three that I'm aware of. Those are the only three that anyone's aware of. And those are all sort of politically tied to legislative leaders and made for good press. But
so one of the confusing things that I think people need to be on top of, because this is part of that confusion, is when your company going after the opportunity for all of these different programs. So this one, the targeted advance, was also a part of the EIDL. So this was a second supplemental thing that was based on the zoning of your community and other eligibilities. So I had already received a denial for that EIDL, and then this is a secondary one that's come in just yesterday.
Yeah, and the big thing, again, it doesn't really concern many people on here. Patrick, I don't see how you do not qualify for SBOG, because you do organize, manage, and produce shows. I mean, there's just, you do. Anybody that sits in the designer or show producer's shoes, and I've had this conversation, I've had multiple SBA conversations with SBA staff up to and including Barbara Carson, who's running the darn thing. You qualify. But the big holdup is, and most of you probably don't read the last few emails because it's not germane, but there is a 2-month backlog at the IRS for those Form 4605Ts. And they don't tell us that, but they tell EIDL people that. And a friend of mine who was trying to get an EIDL loan from Chattanooga literally drove down to Atlanta and spent hours in the office and harassed them to the point that they gave him a certified stamped copy and emailed it to the IRS for his EIDL loan. But that's what the holdup is with these SVOG loans. Is it's been 35 days since the damn portal opened, and I have been told unofficially that they're all waiting on the IRS. And the reason is this: the IRS, most people don't know this, cannot give anyone, including the FBI or the SBA, your tax return without that form. As weird as that seems, The SBA can't just ask the IRS for a tax form. You have to execute that form for that to happen. And right now, that's the holdup and the $50,000 question. And I've been on 2 phone calls today, one with senators and one with SBA people. What are they going to do the 9th of this month when they're supposed to be into round 2 of giving money away, and nobody in round 1 has gotten it?
Yeah.
It's insane.
So it's
Yeah,
reasonable to presume this is going to drag out for many months at this point before anybody realistically starts seeing anything.
Well, and the IRS is trying to hire 50,000 people, and here's the issue.
Saw that.
Well, here's the issue with it. 2 people graduated from University of Tennessee this May. They both have job offers right around $50,000. The IRS is offering $32,000. So
what are they going to get?
who's going to take that job?
And they can make more than that on unemployment.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mean people are back to work?
And this is the reason you're not hearing anything about SVOG. The SBA has just clammed up. And again, I doubt any of you, except perhaps Patrick, watched those 2 House and that 1 Senate hearing. But there's absolutely no information disseminated. It was just a whole lot of political posturing and, when will people, Senator says, when will people get money? And then Isabella Guzman goes, as soon as possible. But when are you going to start giving grants? We're working as hard as we can. I mean, very good.
Amazing answers.
Yep. Amazing political answers.
So, I appreciate all those updates, Michael. Again, the thing is, from where I sit, and I talk to rental companies all day, every day, and I'm sure some of you do when you're looking for cross rentals or whatever it is you're doing, talking to competitors, and of course, Eric and Ben, you're talking to your customers all day, every day. You're hearing some of the same things because I talk to both of you. But it appears something good is happening right now. We're starting to see some cracks of blue sky through, what has been a pretty cloudy year and a half. I did steal an image from an email you sent out yesterday, Michael, which was of the Indy 500. I think it was 125 or 35,000 people in attendance. What was it?
135.
Yeah. So, and a lot of other things as well. I'm seeing exactly this. There's lots and lots of events starting to happen. Again, Wiseman saying that he's, flapping his arms as fast as he can, trying to book everything from people to gear to flights to get things happening, to get shows out the door. But these were some of the ones that you mentioned the other day, the Charlotte Motor Speedway. I think that was yesterday. You mentioned it. Sunset Festival, I think, was 50,000 people. That was an EDM show here in Tampa over the weekend that Gumper was doing. Bruins game a couple nights ago, maybe last night, was 17,000 fans. I saw Ubbi Dubbi, which is, an EDM show again that Gumper did, 45,000 a day.
Ubbi Dubbi,
whatever the hell it's called. It ain't to me. This was another Michael Strickland one, 6 Garth Stadium shows. I'm sure that's keeping you busy for the summer.
And for those that care, we're doing 18 this year.
Jesus. 18 Garth shows?
18 stadiums.
Holy shite. That is insane. That's awesome. That is so awesome. Are you doing Toby Kieth?
Yes. First tour back.
First
tour back.
And how are they doing? I keep talking to Seth. He was on last week and he's been coming on here, but he says it's amazing.
He's killing it.
And obviously Toby's like the least, political guy there is. He's not so politically correct. So for him, it's like, let's get it done. But no, I mean, it's amazing to see. It's amazing to see all of these shows happening. It's amazing to talk to people who are saying, I don't have any idea what I'm going to do in the fall because I have, more shows than I do people, more shows than I do gear, which is a good problem for the manufacturers. And, that's actually one interesting question that I've been talking to you guys about, to Eric and Ben and to other manufacturers as well. But are we seeing a shift in the things that we've believed all along, which is rental companies are really just going to promote what they have in stock and not bring in any new inventory. Because I'm hearing there's a lot of new inventory being brought in. There's manufacturers. I know Claypaky, I think, has an LD trip this week where they're bringing a bunch of LDs into Italy this week. I know Martin's been running around showing their stuff. I'm sure you guys are showing some new stuff as well. So are you seeing a shift in that thinking where we're just going to behave and use all old stuff for the next year?
Okay, can I jump in there, Marcel?
Of course, yeah, sure.
Only if you're jumping in with a purchase order.
That's what I was
gave
going
you
to say.
one.
That's what I was going to say.
I want to put a bow around what I just said because this sets the stage for what the manufacturers are getting ready to say. The politicians are saying, "Oh, you're back at work, everything's good." We cannot let that be the message between now and July when this next infrastructure bill goes through. And here's why. I have knowledge that not a lot of you do because I'm talking to so many of you. There are people that are gone that I know that are gone that you don't know that are gone because Band X hasn't gone out yet with their normal sound or light company. So you don't know that they're gone. There's design firms that are gone. There's all kinds of people that are gone. And I know a lot of them, and it's not my place to say. There are also a number of good companies that you know that have been bought by venture capital companies. There were multiple attempts to roll me up, and probably some of you. They all assumed my financial state was terrible and offered me pennies on the dollar, and I said, no, I'm good. I happen to know that a number of great companies were not that fortunate, and they've been rolled up. So what it will look like on the other side will be very different, but to tie the bow around it and going back to the manufacturers, if we can get this new piece of money, let's suppose that we can all get something. How Patrick Gearson's firm operates, Marcel, how your firm operates, Eric, how your firm does, Ben, all of us, how we operate now running on fumes is one thing. But if we've got fumes in a half tank of gas, we operate way differently, and the whole ecosystem wins.
It's an incredible point. It's an incredible point.
Let's don't give up. And again, once we get there, I've got a list of what I'm going to buy that I don't need. That I've got.
But you know what though, Michael? That's what pisses me off about SVOG. Because nobody, there's no ecosystem there that's getting, benefiting from it. There's the owners of these very expensive buildings that have gone up in the past year and a half. They're getting the money in their pockets. So maybe the Ferrari dealership or the Mercedes dealership down the road is going to benefit. But, no companies like Eric and Ben and mine and Greg's and anybody else's companies. None of us are going to benefit. But, if they put $10 million in your bank tomorrow, Michael, I know at least 5 or 6 of that is going to go straight to gear because you need the gear for, 18 Garth shows this year. So
that's the point is we've got to, we're on the 1 yard line. Let's get this last bill done. Let's press once we make it public. Let's get it done because that will put way more money into our ecosystem.
Absolutely.
So at the same time, though, Marcel, you opened the conversation with companies that had to take on debt that no one really wanted to take on. So as some of these funds and grants and whatever loans come in, how many of us really want to spend that money on gear rather and be more leveraged than we were? I mean, I'd rather not take the money.
I do.
Use the leverage.
Yeah. Well, no, but this is grant money. It's a grant. Number one, it's not a loan.
Well, SVOG is, yes, but what about EIDL?
So it's this new one. No, but this new one that we're talking about.
Okay, well, and that would be fine. I'm just, just making the case that, no one wants to be more leveraged they are, especially in a time like this. Right?
Most of these deals, it's an amazing point, Greg, and I actually had this conversation with somebody a couple days ago who's about to get an SVOG loan for $200,000 to pay off all of his credit cards and stuff that he's spent over the last year and a half. And I'm like, dude, you're an idiot. You're going to end up with even worse debt. Okay, it's a lower interest rate, but I'd rather owe MasterCard and American Express $200,000 than owe the government $200,000. Even because by the way, you can go to American Express and MasterCard and say, guess what? Last year was a write-off. I got screwed. I know I owe you $200,000. Here's 30. and they'll negotiate. The government won't, So I don't agree with that method of doing things. But the thing is, like, what I want to do is take that money and put it into growing my business so that I can pay back the money faster. That's the entire goal.
So for an answer to the question before, Michael, do you think that any of these lighting techs or sound engineers or any of those guys who normally spec the gear are going to bring their sights down at all because they have compassion for what the rest of us are going through? So in other words, they're going to continue to spec the newest, latest, greatest thing that we have to go out and buy, even though we're already under the rock.
I'm already seeing it.
Need a spec. That's distressing.
I disagree, and I'm happy to do business with you guys. You can kick everybody else out the door. We've been very vocal about the fact as a firm that we are very sensitive to our vendors. Our vendors have supported us throughout the years. Now, as this comes back, it's our turn to start supporting them. So we're not going up against the gun to have that latest. And any conversation that we're going to get into with an artist about something like that, we're just going to be very frank about it, explain the situation, and go, all right, well, you're probably we can get it. You're not going to say no, but there's going to be an exponential higher ground cost for that particular
I've seen two really naughty things so far. And I've seen a lot of naughty things, but I've seen two really naughty things for our industry. One is the opposite of what you just said, Patrick, where people are very reckless and demanding certain things. But even worse, I've seen pants at the ankles on last week. I saw 3 deals in particular that someone shared with me that were bid at 50% of sort of the gang was here, and one vendor came in 50% below in 3 different occasions, on 3 different occasions. And these were tours. These weren't one-off events. These were tours.
That's a very different issue of, are they giving away the latest, greatest gear that they just bought for that designer at 50% less? So they went out and bought way more stuff. Leveraged at least one of them had Mac Ultras on it, and what's the Aura with PXL, Aura PXL. Well, I think that's fantastic because that's a shitty business plan. They're not going to sustain themselves that way, and I think that's going to ultimately, on the long game, work out for a lot of you guys.
Yeah, it's brutal.
I would like to think that there are more designers.
Please don't misconstrue my comments, because I have nothing against the advancement of technology and new product and all that stuff.
No, that's not neither here nor there. No, I totally get it. But this
I'm sorry, Mark. I didn't mean to step on you.
No, you didn't at all. You didn't at all.
And just to go back to the question, I think, Greg, that's a very fair comment that you made. What we are seeing, Marcel, is a change in mindset right now. People are beginning to see and understand the possibilities of the world as we used to know it, or perhaps an even more exciting and interesting world. And listen, we're manufacturers. It's our job to innovate and to invent product that people want to do cool shit with. And you know what? We've got hundreds of employees too, and we want to pay them, Greg, just like you want to pay your people. And listen, it's a give and take, and we've all got a tremendous amount of experience working together to make this industry work, right? We've all, I don't see a single person on this screen who, we haven't done business with as a company, and it's an honor and a privilege to serve. But I think what we're seeing though is maybe the total amount of gear as opposed to the total amount of required gear. People are starting to understand that those two things may not match up exactly the way they thought they would.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I think, and from the people that I talk to, at least, what we're seeing is more shows, and maybe we're not seeing 50 city tours yet or 30 city tours, like it's 2019. We'll see that next year. But what we're
that's an insurance issue, though. Yeah, that's not because people don't want to do it anymore. Now it's an insurance issue.
So what we're seeing are, but the 6,000, 7,000, 10,000 seat venues, they're going to be packed every single night. Because, like we said in our, whoever was in the first one of the groups that you're hosting, there's a basic human need to get out and fucking have fun.
Agreed.
Well,
did I read correctly that I think I read a press release from Live Nation that they've already sold like 1.5 times 2019 tickets?
Yep, for 2022.
Yeah,
I mean that is insanity.
Yeah. In their first quarter earnings call, and remember, whatever Live Nation says, it's all about their stock price, not about the
Of course, yeah, of course.
They said, I think it was like 150%, whatever the number was, it was something outrageous.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, and probably sooner than we were previously expecting it, the pool of gear that's sitting on Greg's floor and Bob and Mike, everyone's got everything they ever bought sitting on the floor right now.
Yeah.
Pretty soon, they're going to be sweeping that floor because it's going to be empty.
But isn't the conventional wisdom that in a supply and demand challenge, the price of supply goes up because of the demand? My fear is that they aren't going to track directly proportionally, because promoters and Live Nation, if you want, but they're all going to be trying to recoup lost, revenue just like us. So, I wonder if it's going to play the same way. I have my doubts, but that's just me.
I've got some input.
Seth Scott just said in the comments, local venues are saying they've booked more shows in what's left of 21 than the entire year in 2019.
But what are they going to pay for them? That's the question. Yeah, we can all work twice as hard to make half as much.
Well, I mean, if there are these guys that I mentioned earlier that are going out there and quoting 50% off, I don't understand that. I mean, if you win a bid by 10%, good on you. Hey, you went a little bit lower than anybody else felt like going. But 50% off, you're leaving so much money on the table, and you're planting a cancerous seed into the market.
There's obviously people in desperation mode still that are just trying to get some revenue coming in. They don't care what it is, right? So, I mean, there's people that sell stocks. If you sold your AMC stock today at $30 and now it's at 60, shame on you, right? But there's only so much supply of that, and I did that, by the way. There's only so much supply, of gear for those kind of companies, and then how are they going to make the case to go buy more when they're not making the return? But what I am seeing, and what I've seen the last month especially, is the people that have sold off their gear in the last year because they had to liquidate or they had to get rid of their old stuff, and they sold it to churches, they sold it to whoever would buy it. Now those guys need gear. So we're seeing that business right now. Obviously, we're seeing the outdoor product business, IP-rated products are in high demand right now because a lot of shows are going outdoors. We're booking the Elation on Tour, we call it right now, which is a 10-city bus and trailer roadshow product tour we're doing this month. And we're doing it at venues. So we're doing it at a few Live Nation venues and independent venues. And, those venues are like, oh, I guess we better go turn on things and see what works. And yeah, we'd love to have you, but our freight elevator is broken, so we got to get that thing. Just things like that. These theaters are just getting literally the cobwebs, right? So, but that's what's going to happen over the next. So I think we are seeing the beginning of the end, Marcel, and we're not at the end. We're seeing the beginning of the end, and we've got the next 6 months to really get ramped up. And everybody, I'm talking to Greg, everybody's having trouble finding people for the fall. So I think gear's not going to be the problem. It's going to be people.
People in trucking.
Yeah.
I think to Greg's point, there are, again, because I talk to so many of you competitors, I talk to complementary companies. Right now we're in a bell-shaped curve, and it's an inverse bell-shaped curve. We're sort of at the bottom of pricing because people are giving it away. But there's going to become a moment where there's nothing to give away, and then prices will rise. But last week I talked to Weissman to this point, Greg. And we had a tour. I'll give you a real example. We bid a tour 2 weeks ago. 3 of us were in around $25,000. We theoretically had the tour. And then this other vendor came in at 12. Well, we didn't get the tour. The $12,000 vendor did. Second thing we lost the other day was a band you've never heard of with a lighting designer I've never heard of. That I can't find anyone that ever heard of. This is an extraordinarily small artist. Demanded some brand new lights that Ben sells, some brand new Airtron lights that no one has, and did it for a number that no one could buy the lights for. And it wasn't a lot. It was 12 or 15 of them, but it just made no sense. And then the third one that came across the desk was a similar situation where we and other vendors bid very competitively for this third tour, and then this company that we've never even heard of came in at 50% less than where we were and took the tour. So, Patrick, it goes on, and luckily there are good people like yourself that don't play that game, but there's an amount of it, and it's going to flush out when it hits the bottom and starts coming back up that other side when there's simply there's no more widgets to rank.
There's I think a big point there. It's obviously more philosophical than anything else, but how you conduct yourself in business. But the fact of the matter is, whenever you're putting a project like this out on the road, there are a number of unknowns that fall on the vendor that are going to come out of that bottom line profit margin, no matter what, that you're going to have to put up. It could be anything from expendables and light bulbs and things like that, or the favors that the production manager is going to ask for something that pops up. And we've all been there. We've all had to gussy up and do it. But when you're at 50% less, you're at a point now where you are leveraged out of pocket to do that favor. It's not just coming out of the currently unrealized loss of the profit margin for an ongoing project that's on the road. You don't have any money to pull out from that project. It's going to come out of your pocket. How do you guys feel in that regard about the threat of these companies? In business school, we call it selling scared. You would sell yourself scared just to get in the door, and then you were stuck with whatever ramifications came around the pike from that. When I hear something like that, I tend to look at it and go, let it go. They'll be back. They always come back. And it sounds like a cocky thing to say, but the reality is at 50% of what it costs, you can't sustain the damn business, because we all know what it takes to be in that business.
Tough. That's for sure.
But in the meantime, they'll muck it up for sure. Yeah.
Bob Harmon wants to speak.
I do. I've just been writing some notes here. Guys, a lot of this is up to vaccinations. There's still a large amount of people that don't have them. Venues are starting to shift from hospitalizations and numbers of cases to what percentage are vaccinated. That's starting to change the game. Here in Hawaii, I don't expect any large shows until the fall yet. But that's not unusual for us, because if somebody can get in a bus and play the U.S. mainland, we'll see them when the snow hits, believe me. But for a high, Memorial Day, we had 38,000 people come to Hawaii in one day. Unbelievable amount of people, enough to fill one of these stadiums. There are no rent-a-cars. Rent-a-cars go between $500 and $1,000 a day.
That's everywhere. That's in Dayton, Ohio, as well.
So people are buying cars on Craigslist and then reselling them in order to have a car for a vacation.
Hertz is buying cars at auctions.
As manufacturers, if you want people to get off and buy new gear, yes, Greg's absolutely correct. Yes, we're carrying some debt. By the way, if a new company, a young upstart with his first $200,000 ever, buys into the newest gear and sells it 50% because he doesn't know any better, we're all vulnerable to that, and that happens all the time. So if he just happens to start right now, he just doesn't know the value of what he's got. And you're right, it might not be sustainable, but he probably doesn't have all the insurance and overhead, and he's working out of a small garage right now, and he'll eventually grow anyway. Patrick, I really appreciate you're willing to work with the gear I've got, and we're here for you anytime. But luckily, I was always trending to buy gear. I took possession of, Grand MA3s before all this happened. So in some ways, I'm already in a position where things are starting to grow, and it's catching up with the gear I already bought ahead. So understand that banks, the bands are going to try to bank too. So if you really have a band that's going through the roof, you want to back them with everything you can, and that might mean specifying the greatest and newest. But if you're lucky to be back out on the road, then frankly they're cutting back a little bit because they're trying to cover a nut as well. From a manufacturing side, if you want people like myself to get off a fence and buy gear, which will really pay off for us and come 22. Think about financing that is creative. Follow the car companies that have done things like, interest only for 1 year. And then we're going to start charging you for the gear. You have to do something that if you do interest only, then you're not in a position of really being out the capital. But you've already made the sale today of the gear that I plan to sell in 2022. But if you just give me a greater expense, because yes, I'm tailing with expense right now. And everything that I've pared my business down, as we all have, really thinner than we actually imagined we could still be working. And now we're going to try to pay off some immediate debt, get out of immediate trouble. But if you lasso me with $10,000 a month payment, I just can't make that move right now. But if you do something like, we normally financed out, our guy works over 5 years. But we've worked a special deal with them. We'll give you the first year at interest only, and then we'll ramp up the payments. If that works for you, if you can show me that that you've got an asset or something that makes this reasonable, or you've been with us that long, then you're going to get people to move. But unless I've got a tour, and see, I never tour in Hawaii. People come to me. It's a really fortunate thing. But of course, I can't write that gear off over one big tour either. I've got to make a calculated decision.
Bob, I heard something on the radio that I never thought of. That's the most insane thing about Hawaii.
What's that?
Why do you have interstates?
Freeways. You are correct. Funding. We like funding.
Funding.
Have the most expensive works project in the country.
You shouldn't call them interstates. Doesn't work.
That doesn't work. They just last month they discovered on this rail that the wheels are too thin for the rails they have, and by the way, the rails were mounted too far apart to be useful. Meanwhile, the cars are rusting. Unbelievable. But there's a lot of optimism, Marcel. Boy, you can feel it.
No shit.
I'm still next week I go off and do the Merry Monarch Festival. It was off the air last year. It's something that's been held for 40 some odd years, and I did it in my youth, got the show again. I still have to go through 5 days of quarantine. It was the deal they cut to get the show, get it back on the air. And gosh, if that's what it takes, I'm going to be there. And I've been able to get enough work, and it's certainly ramping up. The phone calls are happening, and curiosity.
I'm currently reviewing a bunch of comments on one of the Facebook pages that for some reason we aren't getting the comments here. But one of the things that was mentioned, I think it was Bud Horowitz who said it. Most of his touring clients are international, and he's not seeing that come back right away. Any thoughts on that? I mean,
well, right now we're trying to work out allowing your vaccine card to permit you not to get a COVID test to come to Hawaii, which is still a requirement. They don't want to move it to nationwide because right now they don't have any way of knowing what's false, what's real, what's out of state. That's something that has to be conquered yet.
Well, and I know that I've heard in Europe, they're working pretty hard on some sort of call it a vaccine passport or a vaccine, some sort of a coding system where you've got a little scan on your phone or whatever, which I'm normally against because I'm a Republican and I'm supposed to be against it. But for our industry, I think it's not a terrible thing because it does allow us to move around more freely. And the people who are afraid, it helps make them less afraid, I guess, whether those are venue operators or insurance companies or even just fans going to a show. So for our industry, I think that that's not necessarily a bad thing if you just have a little, QR code on your phone as you're walking into the venue and they scan your QR code.
We have that in New York right now. And
okay.
So, the venue, so you were putting up statistics before. I think there were 15,000 people at the Knicks game this past Monday. And, you got this little QR code. I can't tell where the camera is. You got this little QR code on your phone that they just, you go through the metal detector, they scan your QR code and you're in. And they're even doing things like at the gym now. If you have the vaccination proof on your phone, you don't have to wear a mask at the gym. So there are definitely benefits, and for those who are willing to be vaccinated, there are definitely benefits to that being tracked, I guess.
Speaking of vaccines, I would like to bring one thing up, and it's not that controversial, but me and Wiseman decided a few weeks ago that we were going to do the J&J vaccine because everyone hated it and was so against it, and it was so scary and stuff. And a report just came out, I think it was yesterday or today, that J&J is potentially the safest vaccine that there is right now, and it's actually the efficacy is very high as well on it. So, I must have had some really great foresight and ingenious thinking behind that one. I wasn't just being a dickhead. So, but yeah, I mean, well, there's always a chance. There's always a chance.
Hey,
but I will say one thing that's interesting. Sorry, Marshall, 1 second.
Right.
One thing that's interesting, obviously being in Florida, and I have my family's in Canada. I got lots of friends in Canada, and it's pretty rough up there. They're on lockdown still. But being in Florida, you get a completely different perspective on things because, like today, I was kind of appalled that I went in to get a massage at lunchtime because I actually swung golf clubs over the weekend and I can barely walk as a result. But I went to get a massage at lunchtime today and they made me wear a mask. And I was like, what? Because I haven't worn one in like 2 weeks to go anywhere, grocery store, restaurants, nothing. Right.
Well, that's the thing. It's very regional still as far as the recovery and the mentality and the openness. I mean, California is just starting to get the 15th here will be, pretty much all the restrictions gone.
Then it's still down to the businesses though. And if a business owner doesn't feel good about, like today, for example, I was driving down the road and I saw a very large male wearing white yoga pants walking down the street with a mask on, to each his own. I mean, if he feels safer wearing a mask,
for sure.
I'd be more worried about the yoga pants than the mask if I were him, but that's just me.
I did just see Guns N' Roses booked a little mini tour, it looks like, right?
Oh, that's cool. Mini tour of stadiums?
Yeah. Bank of California Stadium here. They're doing.
Oh, wow.
Summerfest.
What is it?
They're at Summerfest.
It's not all
Michael, who's insuring stadiums?
They're doing They're doing MetLife Stadium.
Michael, do you know? Do you have an answer to that? Who's insuring stadium shows?
I sit on 3 different working groups dealing with that, and we've been dealing with for months. And it's ended where it started, and you don't have to believe it or subscribe to it. But it's kind of like when you park your car and the back of your ticket says not responsible for damage. That's what Disney did. That's what Universal did. There's signs up front, enter at your own risk. It's on the back of the ticket. And the insurance people that we brought in told us that months ago. They said 2 things happened. Number one, you can't buy insurance on a burning house. And when 9/11 happened, they insured terrorism from that moment forward, but not looking backwards. The insurance industry will never deal with COVID. It's going to sit outside of anything. Having said that, the insurance company, while you can't buy COVID insurance and you can't buy COVID cancellation insurance, they're not worried because in class actions, which I used to preach about, they finally convinced me that, there's a lot of exposure, and that's why Garth's doing his tour. You got to prove you caught it at the stadium. And you can't prove where you caught COVID.
True, yeah, that's tough.
Any more than you can prove where you caught the flu or
food poisoning.
Anything. And that's what's playing out is the fact the 136,000, 135,000 people, which if you know anybody in Indy, they'll tell you it was closer to 200,000. But it was on the back of the ticket, and it was on the signs, and you can't. The lawyers will even tell you they won't take a class action because they can never prove exactly where you caught it.
I can't even prove where my 7th child was conceived. How are you supposed to do any of that?
So that seems to be taking care of itself.
Yeah, interesting.
Marsha's been waiting.
Yeah,
Thank
go ahead,
you,
Marcia.
Greg.
Sorry.
No, I was going to ask Ben if he was referring to the app that New York State offers. I'm in New York State now, though I'm a Florida resident, and I find that this little pocket where I am in the Catskills is very unique and different to say when I was in New York City and I was further downstate, Westchester, Newburgh area. But overall, the last couple of weeks, an amazing sense of relief from just about anyone that I've encountered in New York, whether it's professional or personal. Like I said, this little pocket here in the Catskills it's very unique because it hardly got hit with COVID. I always felt that it was much healthier than just about anywhere else because it's such a secluded little area. But boy, in the city, so many just such an exuberant attitude that seems to be pervasive. A lot of people going out, a lot more people going out, a lot more people looking into venues and events and things, gatherings. I think it's all very positive. And Marcel, the answer to your question that brought out this, I think we're definitely at the beginning of the end, maybe even at the middle of the end. I don't think we're at the end of the end, but I definitely think we're on our way to seeing the closure of most of the bad shit we've been enduring the past 14, 15 months.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's this the freaking screen.
New York Excelsior app.
Yeah, it's this
Yeah.
Excelsior thing, and it goes into like the New York State vaccination database, and as long as you get vaccinated in New York State, but
it's only for people who were vaccinated in New York State. I was vaccinated in Florida. There is no such app.
LA County gives you like a wallet thing too. LA County gives you a wallet.
Florida doesn't care, but my hospital system that I got the vaccination from did give me a CDC app that was a questionnaire based on reactions and adverse effects that I may have had or any reactions. And that was directly through the CDC. And I know when I went to the Public Theater a couple of weeks ago for the Martin demo, Christy Light's Martin demo, I had to get an app, I forget the name of it, and go through a whole instant and a whole procedure just to go in there. And that was 2 days before the city lifted the mask requirements.
Yeah. Listen,
it's also a very tricky thing when you're dealing with the apps because, for instance, the Clear app is supposed to be one of the most acceptable ones of including all of these things. But the Southern Nevada Health District, here basically doing all the vaccines in Vegas, is not a part of that. So you go in there and you go to look it up. You're not registered to anything. We had so many instances where it was a call that day or a news story on the local news saying they're doing vaccine distribution at the Las Vegas Convention Center. They have extra syringes, just come down. And you would just show up. There was no, logging into anything. There was literally no record of it other than they gave me a card and I drove away. And that was it.
Yeah.
And that's all you got. So I think there's going to be a lot of
Same in Florida.
I've never
seen Patrick. After your vaccine, you got a card, and that was pretty much it. End of story. The app I used in New York was called Return Safe. I don't know if any of you guys have ever had a chance to use it.
Anyways, I want to get back to the original topic, which is really just, I think there's value to what you guys are talking about right now, which is some sort of tracking of these vaccines, because vaccines obviously are making a difference. When you look at countries like ours with the highest rates of vaccines, we've got the lowest rates of COVID. There's got to be a correlation there.
Yep.
I'm curious. I'm curious, particularly on the rental house vendor side. Are you guys seeing the same challenges that we're seeing right now? So right now we're seeing a lot of producers, websites, all posting that they're going to move forward with their show. So we've got, like the iHeartRadio Festival in Vegas in September. You've got the Made in America Festival in Philly, Labor Day weekend, Lollapalooza. There's a lot of things that have been posted. Not many of the producers are pulling the trigger on telling the vendors to go ahead. And what we're finding is that everybody's dragging their feet as long as they possibly can. God forbid the government pulls another crazy Ivan with some sort of lockdown on them and screws it up, and they're then slaved to God knows how many cancellation fees at that point when you're putting on an event of that magnitude. Are you guys seeing that same issue as well?
How about you, Michael? You're a rental home.
Yeah, to answer your question, Patrick,
The biggest of the rental houses.
at the end of July and the 1st of August, we have 27 tours confirmed. We have one signed contract.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Everybody, the phone's ringing off the hook, and everybody wants to get you, lined up for their dates. But we can't sign a contract just yet, or we certainly can't pay a deposit, or we can't sign anything that says we forfeit our deposit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody signed anything. Now, I will tell you this again, because in my network of people that I talk to Charlie Walker at C3 and Michael Rapino and Corin Capshaw and all kinds of people sort of that sit above us. And they're not signing guaranteed deals with the artists. And of course, I talk to the artists like many of you do. So they don't guarantee the money to the artist, and the artist can't guarantee the money to us. So you're right, Patrick. It's this whole Kachinga game waiting to fall apart.
And I have one client we've got a few dates confirmed with, but only if we provide a 100% vaccinated crew.
All my crews are that way.
I know, but I'm just, when you have trouble finding personnel to begin with, and now you put one more parameter into the qualifying of it, it's just.
Every client we have has asked for fully vaccinated crew, and one client last week came forward and said, not only will your crew be vaccinated, but if they have a husband or wife come visit, they too will be vaccinated.
Yeah, I think this is yet another issue that I'm not sure we want to dive into it here, but there's a massive contingent of people that don't feel safe taking it, and you need to put away your politics or your personal feelings about it, just as we've done throughout all of COVID, whether it's bitching about masks or not. There are people that are scared and they don't want to have to put that in their body, and they're going to now be told they can't go to work because of it. And that's a pretty big issue on a great many levels that I think.
Well, is it though? Is it? Because at the end of the day, I think we all have to put on our big boy pants. And if our artist that we work for is 75 years old and this is what they believe, and we're unwilling to get a little jab in our arm when we've been snorting blow off strippers' asses for the last 25 years or 50 or whatever the number is, insert number here, and I'm not speaking for myself, but most of you guys have been doing that stuff. I know that. To me, it's silly. If you want to work, go get the freaking needle in your arm. It's not going to kill you. Chances are you're probably going to get hit by lightning on your way there.
People think otherwise about that.
Just wait
so
until
be it.
turn on
So
the
stay unemployed. So stay unemployed. That's
okay. Great. That's
again,
an
Patrick,
acceptable answer. I just wanted to get the answer. It's a go fuck yourself. You're unemployed.
Well, it's a choice. It's a choice.
Yeah, I get it.
I can make the same choice. I saw people that said they were charging, what was it, $5 more for your meal if you were wearing a mask. So they got a choice too. It's the same fuck you, but it's in the opposite direction, right? So, I mean, to me, this is all about choices and personal responsibility and all of these different things. But I think it's stupid when you haven't worked for 15 or 16 months that you're putting your family, your earnings, your future, yourself in jeopardy, and saying to an artist who you work for, I'm sorry, I can't go out and tour with you in September. This is a real world example, because I don't want to get a vaccine, and you're 75 and you want me to get a vaccine, and I'm just not going to do it. You're an idiot. I mean, that's all I can say is you're stupid for not doing it. Feed your fucking family, you dumbass.
Idiot. But at least we've accepted the fact that we've come around full circle and have said, oh, we're just going to stipulate that you got to get it.
No, I'm not saying you got to get it. I'm saying you got to get it if you want to work for a 75-year-old artist.
Yeah.
I mean, most 30-year-old artists probably are not going to force you to get a vaccine. But I know a lot of 75-year-old artists that probably are going to ask you to get a vaccine if you want.
So, Mike, you got any 30-year-old artists, and do you have any unvaccinated guys?
Yeah, Patrick, funny you say that. There's a designer everyone on this call knows who's been with a fairly good-sized artist for a long time who just lost his gig for this very reason. And no one's mad, but he, for personal reasons, doesn't want to get a vaccine, and he's been replaced. And again, I don't think there was any emotion in it. It's just the artist felt a particular way, and the designer felt a particular way, and you know this person, Patrick, and so do you, Marcel. And
it's who I'm talking about. It's who I'm talking about. And I feel bad. I feel bad for the guy, but it was a choice he made. I'm not going to work because I don't want to put this medicine in my arm or whatever, right? I get it.
In all my conversations, I've become very understanding of a lot of things, that included, because I talk to thousands of people across our industry. And there are people that Patrick, that very much, to your point, it's for a number of reasons, and some valid. We don't have a 20-year history of are we all going to die in 2 years? I mean, we can't answer that question. So I see all sides of it.
No, I think it's a very valid question, and I think it's not right to be extremely dismissive of it, particularly after we fought so hard throughout the past year about desperately trying to be sensitive to the various opinions of what has become very controversial in all aspects of this, like whether it's wearing a mask or not, or the levels of efficacy of those things. It's neither here nor there, but to be dismissive about it and just say, nah, go fuck yourself, you're out. I don't think it's the right thing to be doing personally.
But it's a choice,
when
right?
It's about their livelihood, what they do.
It's a choice. I mean, it's just like for the longest time at Disney, you couldn't work there if you had long hair or tattoos, right? And they've probably changed those rules now. I don't even know anymore, but I know people who left because they wanted to grow their hair back or whatever, right? It's all a choice. It's a choice. And I made a choice because I'm selfish and I want to go to my house in Canada at some point. So I made the choice to get a vaccine. It wasn't a political statement. It wasn't, a statement saying that the vaccines are safe or wonderful. It was just saying, I want to go to my house in Canada. This has given me the best odds to get up there, right?
The most interesting transition that occurred in this pandemic is the first 3 or 4 months, we as a society in the United States went from a position of, as employers, and Greg, I'm sure you know this, we couldn't even talk about who did or didn't or may not have contracted COVID because of HIPAA. I mean, we just couldn't. And I had employees regularly going, okay, who's got COVID? Who doesn't? We couldn't talk about it. And now it's 180 degrees out of phase. We're forcing people to reveal whether they have or have not been vaccinated. So that's quite a journey. Not taking sides, but that's quite a journey from a HIPAA.
Amen, brother.
I where did it go? I just had a comment that I wanted to mention on Facebook.
There's another thing that again, this is me putting my lawyer hat on. When Garth Brooks tells me that my entire crew must be vaccinated, that doesn't violate any laws. Garth Brooks trying to tell his own crew that works directly for him they have to be vaccinated is yet to be settled in court.
People are actually fighting that one, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for years, can you legally force someone to get vaccinated? That's a 50-year-old question. It's never been resolved legally. So right now, if an artist tells their direct crew, you must get vaccinated, that may or may not open them up to legal exposure, but they can legally tell a vendor, we only want a crew that has been vaccinated, and that violates no law. It then rests on us to go find people, to Patrick's point, that have been vaccinated.
But that's completely different than being in the shoes of the employer, which he is with his own
contractors.
And that's listed on the OSHA website now as well.
Yeah.
It's open up the employer to a certain level of libel.
Yep.
Because we'll be getting sued for discriminatory behavior because we won't bring on people that are.
God knows. God knows. I mean, God knows. You're probably right, and I wouldn't be surprised at all seeing the crazy things that are going on in this world right now. But, I remember similarly, which is completely different. But when I first moved to the United States and I went to work for Gerard Cohen at Trackman, I had hair this long and wore ripped up blue jeans. And he said, you know what? You're a really smart sales guy, but if you want to succeed in my company and become more than just a sales guy, you got to get your hair cut and wear khaki pants. And I actually had more trouble with the khaki pants than I did with the haircut, believe it or not. But I did both for a little while. I got rid of the khaki pants.
I've been in fast food restaurants where the girl has some big Band-Aid on her face. And I said, are you okay? What happened? And she said, nothing, but I can't show a tattoo to have this job. So she's got a big Band-Aid on her face. I mean,
so I guess the question is the employer, in our opinions, is the employer able to make those decisions? Number one, do I have to make a wedding cake for a gay couple if I'm a baker? Do I have to, or do I have to accept unvaccinated crew if I'm an artist that's 75 years old or whatever age? So it's an interesting question, and I don't really take a side on this one necessarily.
I just heard you starting to wrap up, and yet your opening comments go on forever.
I like to light fires occasionally. That one I was throwing right at Marcia because I know she was going to punch me in the face, and she's right above me on this screen. Bam! I just got like an elbow in my head. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting topic indeed, but yeah, I mean, we actually got viewers today, which is unbelievable.
Wow, cool.
People found us. We got viewers. I think we were up to about 30 something at one point. So
sorry, guys, you're looking for the big finale. This is all we do.
Yeah, this is it. This is it. Although one of my friends just texted me who's never seen our weekly happy hour, which is kind of cool, getting people like that. And you're going to love this. Patrick Dearson sounds like a douche. He may not be, but boy, is his position idiotic.
No,
I swear to God, I just got that text. I swear to God.
Very
that he picked you out in the crowd is awesome, Patrick. Yeah. Well, did we cover everything?
Well,
do we need to cover anything else?
Yeah, one last thing. Just even being here amongst folk that have survived to even ask the questions. With my last sip, I'll say to you, thanks for being here. Aloha.
Hey. I don't know that I have much of a sip left, but I'll take it anyway.
Here, Marcel, put your glass under mine. I'll pour some in.
Oh, please do. Thank you.
I want to see this work. Go ahead.
That'd be a good magic trick.
Bob,
that would be really good
if we could do that for the next one, though, right?
Absolutely. I'm going to have somebody standing here pouring this.
Bob, do you know the promoter in Hawaii, Rick Bartelli?
Yeah, Rick Bartolini. Yes.
Bartolini. Yeah. I've gotten to know him fairly well through all of this.
Yeah, I know. I've been following everything. It's pretty interesting, all of it.
Yeah, he and I swap a lot of emails, and he sent me a box of big Hawaii chocolates and nuts and whatnot, which everybody here is now subscribing to that company to get those boxes.
Hell yeah. How do you spell that name again? I'm writing it down.
I've got one final question for you, Michael. when are you running for office?
Never.
He already did. We're his constituents.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know?
I'm going to spend the next year getting this entertainment association together so that we have a comparable association to the airline association. And hopefully that'll be the last thing that I do politically, but we've got
or
to do that.
NEVA or
And then
NEVA,
you're-
God
And
forbid.
then you're running as far away from Capitol Hill as you can get.
Gee, you've no idea.
But you're
Michael-
so damn good at it, Michael.
Michael, you coming out to Polestar?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a speaker.
Okay, great.
I will
See
be
you
there. I'm on
See
a
you there.
panel.
Yeah,
Cool.
you've been recently awarded some sort of
The
kingdom or something.
Impact 50.
There you go. Who are the other 49?
Mostly
Anyone?
promoters and agents and whatnot, because Polestar is sort of their game, not ours.
Yeah.
Obviously, Rapinoe's in there, and Corin Capshaw, and the usual suspects.
Yeah. It's
When is
always
that?
cool to be recognized, though.
When is
2
Polestar?
weeks. 2 weeks. 15.
June 14 to 17,
Where is it? San Diego?
L.A., Beverly Hilton.
Cool. Unbelievable.
Fancy.
Well, folks, I think with that, hang on, let me look at these comments, see if there's anything that we need to answer.
I'm going to
Lynn
look
says-
forward to the next 7 invites, if that's okay.
Hey, they're all coming. They're all coming. It's Patrick Dearson's fault, though. He was the
Oh, that Patrick.
navigator. He was the navigator.
I merely tried to click a link that wasn't there. God, I did, or else it'd be a very quiet call today.
Yeah, it would have. I'd be sitting here by myself talking alone, which I do quite often. So, all right, folks, thank you so much. This has been fun. I think it was a successful first try. I hope most, if not all of you, will come back and do this again next week. We need 8 or 10 people on this panel that are interesting, and maybe I'll even exclude myself for the next one then. But yeah, it's cool. Good times.
Congrats, Marcel. Cheers, everybody. Have a good week.
Cheers.
Good week.
Thank you guys.
Onward and
Have a good
upward.
one.
Bye.
Be well.